The pistol squat is one of the, if not the most sought after calisthenics leg exercise, and that is for good reason. Not only is the pistol squat an impressive feat of strength and full body control and tension, but it's also one of the most effective leg strengthening exercises, as well as balance and control exercises you can do when it comes to calisthenics. And interestingly enough, it is way easier to learn than most people make it out to be. So if you're ready, let's go have some fun. Now, there is some absurdly important preliminary work we need to do, because what leads to most people's failure when it comes to the pistol squat is not their lack of strength, it is their lack of flexibility. The pistol squat requires immense posterior chain flexibility to be able to perfectly execute it, and that means you should be very comfortable in sitting fully upright with your upper body, both legs completely extended, with your toes pulled in all the way. If you're feeling any, and I mean any sort of stretch in this sitting position, then you are way too tight and you need to work on your flexibility. There are two very easy exercises you can use to get that posterior chain flexibility. With number one being the forward fold or the pike, basically trying to touch your toes and over time getting your hands flat on the ground and pulling your upper body all the way towards your legs. Now, the two things you need to be mindful of when it comes to the forward fold. Number one, make sure that you start with spinal extension, meaning your back is fully extended before you fold forward. If you start rounding your back, you will release all the stretch you can build with an extended back, and try and hinge in your hip as much as you can. This will maximize the posterior chain stretch. Over time, once you have reached the necessary flexibility to fold forward like so, you can start rounding in your back and adding that posterior chain flexibility in your upper body as well, specifically surrounding our spinal erectors, which will be carrying the most tension. And the second thing, once you start folding forward, you will notice that your hips start pushing backwards, which is a mechanism to compensate for a lack of flexibility in your lower posterior chain. By working with your legs in full contact with a wall behind you, start hinging in your hip and have something in front of you to lean onto. This will take off all the necessary balancing stuff and all the strength stuff and give you the space to fully concentrate on opening up your posterior chain all the way. Now, the second and much more prevalent mobility problem, ankle flexion as well as ankle extension, you will require a lot of it to be able to raise out of the pistol squat. You can work with a wall or a box in front of you and push your knee forward with your foot flat on the ground as far as possible, lengthening your Achilles and your lower tendons, and then push backwards. Try and keep your foot as flat as possible, lengthening your tibialis and the front side, and you can work dynamically until you have the capability to go through full flexion and extension. Now, if you check out a full range of motion pistol squat, it starts out with your legs completely extended in an upright seated position. You're going to pull your leg in, and now you're going to notice the two muscles which are going to need a lot of work because they are usually the weakest ones. That would be the tibialis, which is going to be necessary to strengthen to pull our upper body forward, and the same goes for our hip flexor. The combination of those two muscles being super weak is going to keep you from being able to elevate from the floor here and keep your upper body upright without falling backwards. So what we're going to do is, number one, work on our hip flexors. In general, very important work you should be doing even if you don't want to learn the pistol squat. And the easiest way to do that for the beginning is by doing leg raises. Extend both legs, keep your upper body as upright as possible, and elevate one leg, hold for a second or two, and repeat on the other side. The further you open up and the more upright you stay, the more strength you will require. But that also means that the more you close and the more you lean backwards, the easier it's going to be. So you need to progress to a state where you can sit like this, fully upright, elevate a leg and hold it for at least 10 seconds without cramping up, and that is a good sign that you have the necessary hip flexor strength to advance. And to make this exercise way more efficient, so we don't have to isolate our tibialis as well, we will always pull our toes in, which flexes the front part here, and we'll keep building this tension until we have the necessary strength. Once you have progressed through those exercises, you can do the same thing on the dip bar, first with bent legs, and over time, once you have the necessary strength, pull your toes in with extended legs, hold for a second or two, and reverse. Now, by far the easiest way to work on your quad and general leg strength for the pistol squat is, of course, by doing assisted pistol squats. Not only are you working exactly the muscles you need to be working on to go through this movement by yourself, but you can now also work on that balance aspect and the core aspect. Try and lower down as much as you can. Keep your upper body fully upright, and now you're gonna notice we have this complete ankle flexion, we have complete flexion in our hip, and we need the strength in those two parts to keep us upright here without falling backwards. And the same goes for reversing that movement, which means that we're going to require insane activations of our quads to be able to fully extend. If you don't have TRX or anything similar at home, you can just as easily work around a door frame. Now, what's very important here is that you go through the entire range of motion, meaning you sit down fully and you pull your upper body forward to add this glute stretch on the other side and raise up and reverse. Look for some kind of elevation because that's going to make our progress much easier. Grab yourself some sort of weight, extend one leg over the edge. You can use the weight as a counterbalance to lower down all the way. Make sure that your leg doesn't touch the elevation if possible. And now you're going to notice why you require all that posterior chain flexibility, because once you get closer to the ground, if your leg is too low and if you don't have the necessary flexibility to raise, you're going to always be touching the ground. The same goes for the hip flexor strength we required to keep that extended leg fully parallel to the ground. Reverse using that counterweight and repeat a handful of times. Once you get stronger, you will reduce that elevation, which is in turn going to force you to elevate your leg even more so you do not touch down. Reduce once more and repeat, forcing you to elevate that leg even more so you don't touch down. And your final step before you can go for the full pistol, work on the floor, but start with a standing position until you are fully able to sit down completely, leg elevated from the floor. If you are touching down, that means that you're either requiring more posterior chain stretch or more hip flexor strength. So go through the entire movement, reverse, down and up. Over time, reduce that counterweight. You can go through each of these steps once again until you go through the pistol squat on the floor, just like so. And once you can go through the entire rep, now you can start from an upright seated position. Pull your leg in, flex your hip flexors, your abdominals and your tibialis to elevate your butt. Then flex your hip flexor on the right side to elevate your leg. Pull those toes in for a little bit more stretch surrounding our ankle and flex your quads. Elevate all the way up. And what I would highly suggest is elevating this extended leg more and more until you are somewhat parallel to the ground. This will help you activate more of your quads and your hip flexors to strengthen them, which in turn is going to help you with going through a complete pistol squat on the other leg. All the way down, all the way up. You can take a short break between every single repetition. You can try and go for multiple repetitions before you take your break. For now, what you need to concentrate on is learning how to execute the movement perfectly, and how many repetitions you can do is secondary to that. Now, I wanted to keep it as simple as possible, so we basically have some mobility work and then we have the pistol squat regression, so we don't have 50 steps to learn how to pistol squat. With that said, if you need any extra help or any extra exercises, let me know in the comments. And if you like the video and subscribe. Come on, join us. We do stuff like that almost every single day, and that means I will see you tomorrow. So until then, Captain Cairo, peace out.